Alright, folks, a hiatus has passed. It is time for episode 107 in the challenge series. Recording is difficult when there's a lot of noise in the house. There still kind of is, but I'm just choosing to ignore it today because I can't really hold off on this episode longer than I already have. It's already been like a week in between actual racing episodes. The new Shutoko stage side story is kind of existing to be something of filler, I guess. I mean, they're literally spin-offs. They're just kind of meant to, as to their word, as to their name, they're fill in the void in between episodes because I literally could not record this until now. Only one race this episode. We have the, 25 minutes of Watkins Glen. Basically taking a page out of Gran Turismo 6. Alternative name could just be the Watkins Glen Endurance. But, 25 minutes of 715 class racing here from the Watkins Glen full layout. And the Watkins Glen Endurance is green. Because, I mean, it should have been green about 2 minutes ago, but this game works perfectly every time and has no flaws. We are on board with Barbara Page for this race, so she is starting the race from last. Such as the rule, as it's always been. 25 minutes of racing here, as previously mentioned, so I believe it was said to be about like 14 laps of racing, I think. Contact heading up the hill towards the bus stop. Early race traffic. This Barbara trying to negotiate it through here. There are a couple of things that are sort of new, as Barbara nearly gets chopped over the inside curb by Fabian. This race had an incentive for teams to show up anyway. This grid was basically comprised of 6 teams of 3 cars apiece, and then Barbara and Tyler McIntosh as lone representatives of their own teams, of Nitro Knights and Urban Stadium, effectively. Everybody else is on a team with at least 2 other people. So like if we look up and down the grid, we see the race leader, Dom DePrisco, is with Mika and Brian Ice on Pacific Spirit. I myself am obviously racing alongside 2 Mercury drivers, Kotori and Reen. Hikari is racing alongside his brother Akira, as well as Kazuya for Taniguchi Racing Team. Jake Scarborough is racing for his own team, accompanied by Matthew Stotts and Fidel Fabian. And definitely the strangest one out of them all, also Katie Rose with Demon Sports alongside her half-brother Buck and Logan, both of whom are running near the back. But the weirdest one for sure is NFR is back on the grid, but I'm not the one running it. Instead, Noir is, even though she's not in this race because she doesn't have a car in this category, but she managed to obtain 3 drivers who do. Her sister Uni, Fenny Golden, and Nico. Immediately after leaving Mercury, she ends up joining the team that I used to run. And now here I am, running behind a car with my logo on it, but isn't my teammate. And I gotta tell you, that was a weird illusion. That was sort of like a looking in the mirror type thing. As we check back in with Barbara here, running 9th, chasing down a pair of other fellow American sports cars with a Corvette and a Mustang ahead of her. And a Camaro behind her for good measure. Around the outside of Mika Harris goes the C8 Corvette into 8th spot as we round off lap 2. And because this is an endurance style race, tire wear and fuel consumption are a factor. There will be nobody getting through the race on no less than 1 pit stops. You will be stopping, and most people will probably be stopping twice. Especially if you look at the fuel gauge of a driver like Dominic at the moment. His fuel's already half gone. And he's still trying to keep Nico away. He's got a little bit of support from Brian Ice, but he's not able to do much from where he sits. Farberg tries the outside of another car, this time Kotori and the Alpha. They make contact at the apex of the carousel. But Farberg gets clear, a little bit of a horn of excuse me, but I mean, it was mostly inconsequential, all things considered. Got a battle between MFR teammates. That seems weird to say, I'm not gonna lie. Fenny and Uni fighting for 10th position at the moment. I don't think Uni's going to be able to hang that around the outside. Never mind. I'll just be quiet. Fenny has to pit anyway. Those cars do. Surprised Uni doesn't have to. He must be barely clear. Barbara is still not making a whole lot of progress on the top 4. Dom, Nico, myself, and Brian Ice. She is making progress, just very, very not much. There's a word. Well, she just made a lot of through the S's there, so I guess maybe I'll just be quiet, because now she's right on the back of Brian Ice for 4th. She'll try around the outside of the carousel, but Brian Ice will slide up. Crossover in the middle of a high-speed carousel? What? How does that even happen? But no grip on the outside of the entrance to the boot. Crossover thought about, but Brian Ice covered it off. Actually gets into the back of me a tiny bit, but luckily we do not sustain damage because it was such a minor tap. He has a little look at me, but there wasn't really a whole lot of room there. He wasn't going to try and make room. Why risk his car early on in the race? Or our cars, for that matter. It's a quick way to take me off. Anybody off, really. He's caught defending into the penultimate turn. First and second pit, which leaves myself, Ice, and Barbara to trudge on for one more time around. Barbara's tire wear is not great, but that Corvette is oddly fuel efficient. Ice, I don't even know how I let this happen, but Ice just out-drags me out of turn 1. That's the most random way for me to possibly get overtaken. And Barbara and we all go 3 wide here. Contact is made, and we all do well just to not crash there. Still no damage dealt, but that was, I don't think Brian knew we were 3 wide there. Something tells me. And he slid up the track. I would have obliged, but I couldn't go anywhere. There was a Corvette there. And then it was near disaster from there, but, you know, the crises averted. Barbara a bit understeery, trying to hang on the outside of the Diablo, which gives me 2nd place. Hikari is also another driver who's kind of a little bit fuel efficient. There are a few down back here. I was surprised Angelos is able to save fuel in that big Charger, really. He's able to make 5 laps to the tank when, you know, there are quite a few cars who didn't do that. That's chaos. Dominic is going to lose a bit of time in that, I would think. Speaking of time, it is time for us Elite 3 to pit and finish off the first round of pit cycles. No one is really getting particularly adventurous here as far as pit strategies go. Yeah, everybody else will dive in, but not a single person can hack another time around. Except for Akira, who's been masterfully fuel-saving, or just driving too slow to consume too much gas. He's still got another lap left in the tank, so he thinks, so he's gonna go around. And all mistake that was kind of made on Barbara's part, although it might have been a necessity for her. She pits here and she puts on fresh tires. Nobody else did that on this pit stop. As you can see, everybody else's tires are at about 60 to 70%, depending on the driver and the car. You can see I was a little nicer on my left side, so not my rights. And I am just... I was in Nico's business. I was trying to put the pressure on her. I was trying to make her freak out, or... You know, we all know her patience is not great. So I figured if I just kind of sat there in her mirrors, she would just lose it, but... She didn't really do that too much. I eventually just kind of snuck in down the inside, which grabbed me third place. In the meantime, Barbara gets 6th over Mika Harris and looks for 5th over the heavily modified Camaro. This thing's tire wear is god-awful. I mean, compared it to Barbara's tire wear is not fair, but even in comparison to Nico, who is kind of pushing the LFA, those tires are eviscerated. And its fuel consumption is god-awful as well because of how much horsepower it's making. Yeah, it's got a whole lot more horsepower than, say, me or Ice, but our cars are just more efficient from design standpoint. Akira will finally accept that he must pit and surrender the race lead to Brian Ice. Penny's car has got some stellar pace. Unfortunately for her, it does not have any efficiency whatsoever. The tires are dying. She'll have to probably pit at the end of this lap, if not for fuel, then for those tires. Meanwhile, Barbara's got a fresh set of tires that could probably go to the end of the race, should she so... I hate saying that. If she so chooses to. Although, fuel's not going to get that far quite. Making it to the next lap here, Barbara is about halfway caught up. She's about made up half the time she lost from the extra set of tires. Penny pits for a second time in the race, but you can see the amount of time Dom DePrisco lost with his pit stop timing. He pit early, but he came out behind Nico and behind a lot more traffic than the Lexus LFA driver had. And so he lost a bunch of time to us other front four runners. Nico defending into the bus stop from Barbara Page, who caught swiftly up the S's. She cares not. Tries around the outside of the LFA. Space just about created and taken. Space is taken, and so is the position. And yeah, Barbara is making gains with those fresh tires compared to... I mean, yeah, you look at the tire life of everybody else around. Dom's preserving his pretty well, but his fuel is gone. I was doing minute preservation, but I was still trying to at least stay next to Ice. He was not at all bothered with preservation anything. With preservation anything, yep. Excellent, no, not excellent English. He was not preserving, to say the least. And it shows in his tire wear, you can just about see the difference. Barbara just ratios me through the final turn. You can see the difference in driving style and setup based on how the tires are wearing. Ice is pushing it into every turn, and his left front tires are showing the results. In comparison between me and Nico, I'm more understeer oriented, hers is more oversteer, which is why her left rear tire is the lowest tire, whereas my lowest is instead my left front. Barbara changed tires. Hers are fresh, and the pace difference is obvious. So, a solid strategy call from a factory outfit. I suppose that's what they're there for, when you think about it. Puts Barbara back in the lead, after some of her own, craftsmanship at the wheel. And now she'll just try to hang on to it. The things will be interesting at the last pit stop, though. She might want to take tires again, because I can assure you, because I was there, that everybody else around her on the track will be doing exactly the same thing. Nico is the only person to do so on this lap. She'll be the first to make her final pit stop for this race. And looking at those tires, and, much lesser fuel gauge, it's certainly about time. Ice's tires struggled to even go another lap after this one, so even if he weren't low on fuel, his tires are about shredded. Mine are better, a little. And we're keeping Barbara up there at just about our arm's reach. But at this point I realized, I can't get ahead of Barbara if I'm stuck behind Brian Ice, so I'm going to try and use the slightly better tire wear I have and exist near Brian, get him to let me go. Spoiler alert, didn't work. Actually, just ended up wearing out what did remain of my tires through these corners. I guess it doesn't matter because we were going to be getting off them at the end of the lap anyway, but still. Yeah, looking at Barbara's tire wear, she wouldn't get to the end on this set unless she did tire saving, which is harder than fuel saving, I can tell you. It's also hard to get around Brian Ice, I can tell you that, but I eventually manage. And then he almost gives me a bump and run into the literal next turn. And dutifully, we all head into the pit lane for the final time for our race. Us in the top 3. So given my slightly better tire wear and my endurance racing experience of knowing that if I had to, I can save some tires, I don't pit for them. I just refuel the car just as much as I need to take the flag. Nico did the same thing, but Barbara and Brian Ice did not. They took fresh tires. And Nico, I think, is about to find out why she should have probably done the same thing. I did it for track position, but Nico didn't have the track position before, and she doesn't have it now either, because her outlap wasn't that all that great, because her tires were 10 laps low. Well, 9 at the time, but you get what I mean. Barbara's gonna begin to run me down, which I was fully aware of. And, skipping about a half a lap, Barbara's fresh tires, they make the biggest difference up the S's. The high-speed corners are exactly where the extra remaining rubber can be put all the way to the floor. And yeah, I just got absolutely embarrassed up there. There's just no other way to put that. The better tires on Ice's car allowed him to get a better run, but it didn't allow him to get down the inside of the LFA. My brain was trying to say LFS. What the heck is an LFS? That sounds like something I would hear in, like, the Elder Scrolls or something. Or like some sort of, like, weird elephant beast god. Elephus, god of elephants. What? Anyway, the laps are kind of ticking down here, and it was about at this point when I realized that I should have just taken tires, because the speed that I would have lost, or the speed that I have lost from not doing that, it didn't really help. You know, I gained 3 seconds, not two, or like 5-6 seconds, not changing tires when I stopped, and then I lost, like, I'm losing like 5 per lap because I didn't change tires. Nico is still somehow, some way, keeping Brian at bay with tires that are actually worse than my own. I don't know how she's doing it. Let's see if Ice has the answer this time. It doesn't seem like it, though. He'll get just about alongside, or he'll think about it. It gives Nico a bit of a tap. That's not really that clean. At all. That was a bit of a bump and run, one would say. And in spite of her worn tires, Nico's gonna basically try and get him back for that. But I think Ice might just be able to pull away with the fresh tires. I wasn't even aware that that had happened. I'm sure she'll be real happy about that afterwards. I mean, there's always the good old Robbins Racing mantra. And that's pretty much what Brian did just there, but it's not the first time he's done that to a Mercury driver either. And now all 4 of us are pretty evenly spaced apart. You tell for me, well, my left rear is not really in any real danger, it's the left one. Meanwhile, with Nico, both left side tires are absolutely derelict. And she'll be lucky to even make it to the final lap. Or make it through the final lap, because we're about to make it to the final lap in about 10 seconds. Meanwhile, Barbara, with basically completely fine tires, takes us over to the white flag, 15 seconds to go in the race. And it's gonna pretty much be down to us 4. Ice gives me a tag as well. I also definitely called Nico a Mercury driver a minute ago, which at the moment is untrue. Former Mercury driver. He gave me the bump and run, but I didn't really care, all things considered. I knew his tires were fresh, and I figured it would be a matter of time, but Nico also tries to do the same thing on me. I was kind of expecting it from her, though. I wasn't expecting it from Brian Ice, so I wasn't ready for the light tap, but Nico tried to give a slightly heavier tap in a much faster turn. But I read her like a book. Also, the race was over for literally everybody except for the top 4. Rain did not get another lap, nor did anybody else. Just those top 4 cars, all under a blanket 25 minutes of racing later. Even with differing pit strategies and everything. But in the end, it's just extra tires. Extra tires were always the choice. And Barbara has proved that for sure today, even as a driver with no teammates on the racetrack. I guess that didn't matter when the top 4 were comprised of 3 different teams, but here comes Barbara Page grabbing the checkered flag at her team's home circuit here at Watkins Glen. Brian Ice 2nd, myself 3rd. Nico 4th, with literally nothing left on her left rear tire at all. That is still weird to look at. That there's an NFR out there and it's not my team. Or it is my team, but I'm not running it. I'm still on Mercury. Yeah, basically that's, Noir's response to me refusing to let her take over Nico's occupied space on Mercury Racing. Mainly because this is not my call to make, it's Honoka's. But I really didn't think... I kind of doubted that she would ever go for that because, Nico is Muse and Noir isn't. I'm not Muse either, but I don't know. I guess I'm special. I, I'm not exactly sure. It's crazy how Mercury works. It was just a both times that I've joined the team have been basically just kind of being not voluntold, but Honoka is just so direct with everything that it's kind of hard to even think of why you would say no, because she'll just keep asking anyway. But yeah. In response to that, Noir is like, okay, I'll do my own team then. She starts up NFR after that went so well before, but she claims that her and her sister have turned over a new leaf. I feel like if she were trying to create a new version of NFR that races cleanly, signing Nico in her current status of angst might not have been the best call. But nonetheless, NFR is back. The Watkins Glen endurance of 25 minutes is over, and Barbara is your victor.